Did you know that knitting isn't just about making cozy sweaters and scarves? It's a craft with a fascinating history, cultural importance, and even some surprising science behind it. Today, we're diving into the top 10 facts about knitting. Some of these may just change the way you look at this timeless skill. Fact number 10. Knitting is older than you think. Knitting might feel modern compared to weaving or sewing, but the oldest known examples date back to at least the 11th century. In fact, the earliest knitted items found were socks from Egypt, made using very fine cotton thread. These weren't just warm, they were works of art with intricate patterns. What's fascinating is that knitting spread through trade routes, meaning it traveled with sailors, merchants, and nomads, quickly becoming a global craft. Fact number 9. It started with men, although today many people think of knitting as a women's hobby. History tells a different story. In medieval Europe, knitting guilds were dominated by men, and they were considered professional artisans. These male knitters produced stockings, hats, and garments for royalty and the wealthy. Knitting wasn't just a pastime, it was a serious trade. So, the next time someone calls knitting old-fashioned, remind them it was once an elite male profession. Fact number 8. Knitting helped win wars. Knitting has played a role in both World War I and World War II. Civilians were encouraged to knit socks, hats, and scarves for soldiers on the front lines. In fact, posters often read, "Knit your bit." Millions of hand-knitted items were shipped overseas to keep soldiers warm. Beyond the warmth, knitting became a symbol of unity and patriotism. Some say that without knitting, soldiers would have suffered even more in harsh conditions. Fact number 7. Knitting is great for your brain. Modern science shows knitting isn't just relaxing, it's good for your health. The repetitive motions activate the same parts of the brain as meditation, lowering stress and blood pressure. Studies even suggest that knitting can delay memory loss and reduce the risk of dementia. It also improves focus, coordination, and fine motor skills. Basically, every stitch is like a tiny workout for your brain. Fact number 6. It's not the same as crochet. People often confuse knitting with crochet, but they're very different. Knitting uses 2 needles and creates loops of yarn that interlock like a chain of VS. Crochet, okay? On the other hand, uses a single hook and results in a denser, more textured fabric. Fun twist. Crochet is actually younger than knitting, only becoming popular in Europe during the 19th century. Fact number 5. The world's largest knitting needles are huge, believe it or not. The Guinness World Record for the largest knitting needles goes to Julia Hobson from the UK. Her needles measured over 14 feet long and 3.5 inches thick. And yes, she actually used them to knit. The oversized needles produced stitches the size of a person's head, turning the art of knitting into a giant spectacle. Fact number 4. Knitting codes and secret messages. Here's a cool spy story. During World War II, some resistance fighters used knitting as a way to pass coded messages. Knitters would drop stitches or use patterns to represent Morse code, hiding secret information right inside scarves or socks. German soldiers never suspected that those innocent knitting projects might contain vital intelligence. It was the perfect cover. Fact number 3. Yarn bombing is street art. Knitting isn't always cozy, it can be rebellious too. Yarn bombing is a form of street art where people cover trees, benches, lampposts, and even statues with colorful knitted or crocheted pieces. It started in the early 2000s and has since grown worldwide. Unlike graffiti, yarn bombing is temporary and doesn't damage surfaces, but it adds a playful splash of creativity to city streets. Fact number 2. Knitting has a world record for speed. Think knitting is slow. Think again. The fastest knitter in the world is Miriam Tegels from the Netherlands. who set the record by knitting 118 stitches in 1 minute. That's nearly 2 stitches every second. Professional speed knitters train their hands to move with machine-like precision. Watching them in action is jaw-dropping. It almost doesn't seem humanly possible. Fact number 1. Knitting connects people across generations at its heart. Knitting is more than just fabric and yarn. It's a tradition passed down through families, connecting grandparents, parents, and children. Knitting circles and clubs bring people together to share stories, techniques, and laughter. In many cultures, handmade knitted items aren't just clothes. They're symbols of love, care, and heritage. Whether it's a baby blanket or a holiday sweater, every stitch carries meaning. And that's our countdown of the top 10 facts about knitting. From secret spy codes to giant needles and brain-boosting benefits, knitting is so much more than just a hobby. So, whether you knit yourself or just admire the craft, you now know how deep, rich, and fascinating this tradition really is. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment about your favorite knitting fact. Until next time, keep those needles clicking